Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. We are so happy you are here with us today. And before we jump into today's episode, we just want to tell you about our 14-day Vitality Reboot that's kicking off in the new year. And we are so excited for this program. We've changed it up, and after, the fun of the holidays and the indulgences, we are just really excited to have you join us for a reset, a recharge, and to really feel your absolute best.
Yeah. And so we are going to have this awesome community and lots of interaction with Marnie and myself. And honestly, like Marnie and I have done this many times, and we still need the community support. We know you can do these kind of things on your own, but getting better together is really what we're all about. That's what this podcast is about and our mission, and we're building community, and you're going to meet other like-minded people. So if you're ready to improve your sleep and cut your cravings and just wake up honestly with more energy and feeling your best self, then this is the community that you want to be part of. Do yourself something wonderful this holiday season and gift vitality and community to yourself.
And it just feels so good to have that community, right? Like for me, I'm motivated when I see what other people are making and I see their beautiful foods, or we go to the sauna together and we're all sweating together and having great conversation, or maybe we're going on a guided hike, which we're including this time. And Stephanie and I are available to you 24/7 for the entire 14 days. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Exactly. It's an investment in your health, but this is, I don't know, look at it as, you get health coaching support for 2 weeks. So if you've never hired a health coach or know what that's about, this is kind of a way to dip your toes into it as well.
So let's make 2024 like your healthiest year yet, right? Every
2025,
year.
2025.
Oh my gosh, 25.
You're off.
I'm a year behind. Wow, that is crazy. Crazy. Anyway, you can see where my head is somewhere else. So you can sign up in the link is in the show notes. It's in our link tree. It's on social media. We're everywhere, right?
Yeah. Yes. And if you have a friend or family member who'd like to join you, it's even better doing it if you live in the house with someone else. Having that additional support and accountability is also amazing. So feel free to invite anyone along with you on this journey.
And the first few signups that we get a free Art of Living Well podcast hat, which we love. And we are excited to share those with our community.
Yes. So should we jump right in?
Yes. Yes. So
to today's episode?
Yeah.
Well, I just think, this is a topic that we haven't talked about on the show really at all, but it's one that if you follow any health or wellness influencer, they've talked about probably at some point: seed oils and just in general oil, like cooking oils, and what's bad, what's better, how do I cook with certain oils, what should I have in my house, what about eating out, what about processed food, all the things. So we're going to dive in and cover that today and answer any questions you have. And if you have questions after listening to this episode, DM us or reach out, because we would love to continue the dialogue and help you be able to make changes if needed, or just answer any questions that you have.
And I just think this cooking oil topic is so interesting because, I didn't know anything about this, I would say 10 plus years ago, and more comes out, and you see so much in the media and in the news. These oils are bad. These oils are good. Don't cook this with high heat. Don't cook this, and blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. And it's just like, right? It's so overwhelming. So I feel like I'm really excited we're talking about this today. And I think Stephanie and I just want to make sure that our audience knows that we're not striving for perfection here, right? We just want to get some of the information out there. And even if you can make one small change, that's going to be a benefit to you. And even just having some of the information so that maybe as you're using up your oils, or replacing things, you think about this episode and maybe you're buying an avocado oil for the first time and experimenting with that. So don't feel like you have to go clean out everything in your house and go crazy. Just think about those small incremental changes that do add up over time.
Exactly. Think about where are you eating most of the time? If it's in your house, then just focus on the stuff in your house. And then when you go out to eat, don't worry so much about it, right? So first of all, just kind of baseline here. What are seed oils? Like people talk about it all the time, or at least I'm sure these things show up in our feeds, but what does that even mean? They're refined plant-based oils, and it's like the corn oil, the soybean oil, the safflower oil, sunflower oil, vegetable oil, palm oils. That's whenever you see those words on a label, that's what we're talking about when we say seed oils. So Marnie, why are seed oils so bad? Like, why do they get a bad rap? What's the big deal?
Because when they are manufacturing these oils, they're processing so much out of them at this high heat, and they're just pulling all of like the good stuff basically out of the seed, and they're making it so it's at a more stable shelf life, and it's just not good for us. It's
Right. I
highly,
mean,
highly processed over and over again.
and the difference from like, you know, 100% olive oil, right? Where they're just pressing the oil out of the olives and that's it. And the other thing about seed oils, really, what ultimately, leads to potential health issues is that they have a high concentration of the omega-6 fatty acids, which we have talked a bit about on this show. And it's that balance of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids. And, part of the issue is all these seed oils are just so much in more abundance than they were decades ago. And that's what's causing like the inflammation and the other chronic illnesses that can come with having too much of the omega-6 fatty acids.
And so many people are eating those omega-6s when they're eating out and they're eating conventional foods and processed meats and processed foods. And that's where it's just building up in our systems over time. And, how do you know that? We actually offer a test that lets you know where you're at with your
Yeah.
omegas, and it's super helpful. I know when I took the test for the first time, I was actually shocked because I think that I eat pretty well and I still had a high number as most Americans do. And then, you learn, oh, maybe we actually do need to supplement with omegas to get that
Yeah.
number to a more baseline level.
Well, I think part of the issue is it's hard to eat omega-3s unless you're eating
Hmm.
wild caught fatty fish every day. And I'm talking sardines, salmon, mackerel. Like a lot of people don't like sardines, but if you want to not supplement, you could just eat sardines every day. But I
Which
don't
my
know about
son was
you.
doing for a while when he was living in Portugal, but
They probably
ew,
taste really good though. Like when you have them prepared, I have eaten them out and they're good. I mean, it's just hard for me
it's
to
not
like
my
pick up a
vibe.
can.
Not my
No,
vibe at all.
I
Can't
will
do
tell
it.
you, I was going through my pantry and I have 2 cans of sardines because I go to the store and I'm like, I'm going to eat some sardines so I get better. Anyway, um, so kind of going back to just like the basics here. What do you have like in your pantry, right? Like maybe we should just kind of run through some of the oils and talk about the benefits, talk about the pros and cons and like where you can find these oils and how we should be using them.
Well, and for me, like I for sure always have olive oil in my pantry. I have avocado oil in my pantry. I have coconut oil in my pantry, sesame oil. And then I have the Zero Acre oil, which is a brand that we both love.
And we'll kind of
Um,
get to that in
yep,
a
we
bit.
will get to
Yeah,
that. But
we'll dive
like
into that.
the extra virgin olive oil, it's funny because a number of years ago, before I understood olive oil and oils in general, I would use it to cook everything with.
Yeah.
Everything, high heat, low heat, whatever. Now I'm very cognizant of the fact that olive oil should not be used at a high heat, right?
Mm-mm.
Like you could use it to cook at a low heat. But I mostly use it now for like finishing, drizzling on different things. Yeah,
Salad
that
dressing. I mean,
salad
you
dressing.
can roast with it, but that's about it. Yeah. I mean, so you don't want to use it with high heat. If you're sauteing, you do not want to use olive oil.
And I also can really taste the difference in different olive oils, right? Like a
Mm.
really high quality extra virgin olive oil is
Oh,
delicious. I mean, I actually love it.
yes. There is
And
a big difference. And the thing about olive oil, and I think like a lot of companies, it was maybe almost 10 years ago, got exposed because you thought you were buying olive oil and then they did all these investigations and tested it and you were not getting olive oil. They were like marketing it as olive oil and then half of it was a bunch of seed oils. So you do want to be mindful of where you buy your olive oil. And if you are using it for salad dressings or like finishing, the high quality olive oil is the way to go because you will totally taste the difference.
if you are cooking with olive oil, you should not cook with it at a temperature of greater than 350 degrees.
Yeah.
Just as like if you're even if you're putting it in the oven or whatever. And then that's where avocado oil comes in and is a great
Mhm.
alternative if you do want to cook or saute or use anything. That's where you can use that high smoke point. I think it's like up to 500 maybe or somewhere
Yeah.
in that range. And yeah, so it's great for frying and sauteing and roasting. And, some people are like, ew, like I don't want to use avocado oil, but I actually think it tastes good. I have
Yeah.
no issue with it.
No, not at all. I mean, and remember, like going back to like why, like it's a different types of fats that each of these oils has. And
Hmm.
the monosaturated fats and the antioxidants and extra virgin olive oil, which contributes to really like health and longevity. Think about the Mediterranean diet. That's what they're using.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just a little bit of that. And same thing with avocado oil. That's another one that's rich in monounsaturated fats. So
Yep. And
a
then
little bit of background there.
And then, coconut oil is high in saturated fat, right? The
Right.
medium chain triglycerides, it's a hard word to say, which can boost your energy and your metabolism. But again, it is a fat and you do want to use it in moderation. And, there was this whole like trend for a long time where people were putting coconut oil in their coffee, right? And
I think,
doing
yeah,
doing all kinds of things with it. But it has a smoke point of about 350, and a lot of people use it for baking.
I love
Um,
it for baking. It's so good.
so I am not a huge baker. I'm not a fan of baking, but when my daughters love to bake and they pretty much use avocado coconut oil now just
Yeah.
because that's what we have in our house and it does work really well.
Mhm. It's perfect. And you can use it in place of butter too. I mean, you can always use
Hmm.
ghee, but you can substitute it for butter. So if you have a recipe and it calls for canola oil or butter, you can always substitute coconut oil one for one. I've been doing it for many, many, many years. And it's super easy to use. I do prefer like the unrefined, virgin organic coconut oil when you're looking for it, but you can buy this stuff at Target, guys. All these oils that we're talking about, you can buy at Target, you can buy at Trader Joe's, you can buy it at Costco. You do want to look for brands and quality. You can find organic for all of these.
Hmm.
So you don't have to go to a specialty store or even a co-op. And Marnie and I love our co-ops but you don't have to go to these niche little grocery stores anymore. This stuff is in abundance everywhere.
Well, and I also, and maybe I'm not using this appropriately, Stephanie, you can tell me if I'm not, but when it says grease the pan, I use coconut oil. I take it on
Oh
a paper
yeah.
towel. I'm not
Yes.
using, what is that, Crisco or whatever,
My
which,
God. Do they still make that? I honestly don't even
yes.
know
And
because I know.
I have family members that use Crisco for recipes.
Okay,
Like,
that's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't use Crisco if you can avoid
No,
it. Coconut oil works really well.
right. Coconut oil is also good for popcorn. If you're making homemade popcorn, coconut oil and really good sea salt, delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's coconut oil.
What do
And
you
then you
think of
mentioned,
sesame oil?
yeah, you know, I use it sparingly on certain dishes. So certain stir fries or like Asian dishes will sometimes call for it. I tend to use it more just like a drizzle at the end. I'm not like sauteing with it or anything like that. I also have used it on my skin before. There's different like Ayurvedic type rituals. So that's an oil that I've used for not for cooking, which I know is what we're
Tell
talking about
us
here.
more.
There's just different, yeah. When I was doing my yoga teacher training, there were different practices that I used it for.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't ever done that before.
Yeah. And I've used it just like on my body.
Hmm. So I
like
have
when you
used
have super
oils
dry
on my
skin.
body, but not sesame oil.
I've also used coconut oil. I used to have
Yes,
coconut oil in my bedroom, and I use that in place of, like, at
lotion.
night, in place. Yeah.
Me
Yep.
too,
So
for a
buy a big
very
thing of
long
it,
time. And then it
very
just
long
got
time.
really messy.
I think that's probably why I
Yeah.
swapped it out, but it's a great, my point is you can use some of these oils, not just for cooking, but for other uses and purposes, personal care, right?
Personal care,
Personal
exactly.
care, personal care.
And just one other thing about sesame oil, it does have a lower smoke point. So you're not supposed to cook it at a high heat, which I have been guilty of doing wrong before. And my
Yeah.
husband, I'm constantly reminding him, you can't cook that oil at a high heat and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And he just thinks I'm crazy. But this isn't crazy, right? Like there's
No.
validity to this. And this is why we're having this episode
Well,
today.
because you don't want the stuff to get all charred and
Denature.
burned, and then you're getting toxins in there, and then you're like,
Yeah.
and you're also, when you cook certain foods too high at too high a heat, then you're really kind of removing some of the nutrients.
So grapeseed oil is another one. I actually don't
Yeah.
own grapeseed oil and never use it. So I'm really not that familiar with it, but you do see it in lists
Mhm.
of ingredients a lot when you're looking at
Yes.
products.
Yep. And I don't either.
And you hear
I
about
don't.
the seed oils, right?
Mhm.
Like the seed oils
Right.
that aren't supposed to be so good for you.
Yeah. I think, again, it's probably a little bit in moderation. So part of it is, if you have all these oils and you're rotating them, then you're not using any one oil all the time. Like,
Right.
like the coconut oil, and again, if you're putting it in your coffee and you're putting it in you're cooking with it and you're baking with it and you're eating a lot of it, then that may be something to consider.
Yep.
Just because of the high saturated fat. And again, everyone's different. Everyone's body is different. We're not giving any sort of medical advice here, anything like that, obviously.
No.
But should we talk about Zero Acre a bit?
Yes. I mean, I love Zero Acre.
Yes.
It is definitely the oil that I like so much that I bought it for my son who lives on his own in Chicago. And he was like, oh, mom, I ran out of my oil. I'm like, you want me to buy you more? He's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm in because I know that I'm giving him a product that is good for him and he doesn't have to sit and think about all the different oils and how he's using them because you can use it at a high heat, right?
Yes.
And it's made from rain-fed sugarcane plants in South America,
Which
which
is
is
so
so
interesting.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah, like would love to have the maker of this product on our podcast, and maybe
Mm.
someday we'll get him on to explain it. But I'm not really able to explain, the details behind his product. I don't know if you are, Stephanie, but I do know that it's a good oil that contains less of the fats that are linked to inflammation and heart disease and poor
Mhm.
health. And it does not have a high omega-6 count at all. And
It's also more sustainable than even the
mhm,
other good oils like olive oil, which I think is interesting, just the way that it's made, the process.
yep. And
So,
it can be used at a high heat,
which is key. So
which
it's going
is
to
key.
substitute out a lot of the canola oil, the corn oil, the soybean oil, all those other oils that people use for high heat cooking and frying. It can be used in
And if
place of
you
that.
don't want to invest in all these different types of oil, you could potentially buy, the Zero Acre oil
Yeah.
for most of your cooking needs, a high quality
Olive oil.
extra virgin olive oil for
Mm.
the drizzling and the dressings, and then maybe a coconut oil for
Yeah.
everything else. And you're kind of covered.
You're
You don't
covered.
need anything else in your kitchen.
No, no, especially for people that don't like to cook or that just don't cook a lot. You and I are probably the exception because we really enjoy cooking. So we have lots of different products in our house. But for someone out there who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, like, just keep it to those three, like Marnie said. And we actually have a code for the Zero Acre. If you go to their website, and we will link that up in the show notes. I believe it's Living Well.
It's living well, and you get 15% off, which is a
Yeah.
pretty decent code. And
Yep.
actually, as we're coming up on Black Friday, I would bet that they're offering something else for Black Friday. So if you're hearing this and you're thinking about it, I do highly recommend the Zero Acre. I think I
Yeah.
buy them in like bundles of
So
maybe
do I.
three because you get further discounts if you bundle
Right.
them.
And it's not going to go bad. You're going to have it in your, in your pantry for quite a long time.
The other thing I just want to mention quickly in regards to oils is how you store them is really important. And also like their shelf life, because the other day I was in my parents' pantry and I looked at some of their oils and they were too old. And I'm like, you can't keep this. Like you have to
Yeah.
throw this away.
Well,
And
they
they're
get
like, oh,
rancid.
it's fine. It's fine. I'm like, no, it's not fine.
Yeah.
But so make sure you're paying attention to expiration dates. If you have the oil open, I don't know, I would say for more than 6 months. That's probably too long, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I think you have to do the smell test, like the sniff
Yeah.
test, and you should store it in like a dark cabinet
Yeah. And cool. You don't want it to
and
be a dark,
cool.
hot cabinet. You definitely
No.
want it to be cool.
Yep.
And
So,
you want to make sure it's sealed, whatever it's in,
mhm.
it's sealed. It's not, a little bit opened.
Right. Right. But I think you just have to also like the sniff test to me is just as important as looking at the date. It's like
Yes.
both of
And
those
I'm really good at the
personally.
sniff test because I have a
Yeah.
strong nose. I do.
Okay, well, what do you think about like when you see organic sunflower oil in a product? Like, so I'm talking more of like a packaged food product because that's the one thing that kind of gets to me, especially if I'm looking for things for my kids. Maybe it's like a bar or chips. Like I've sat in the chip aisle. Yes, I do have chips in my house and tried to find products that aren't made with corn oil for my kids.
It's really hard.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't like to buy those products with all those oils because they're just not good for you,
Right.
right?
I mean, it's already like an indulgent kind of food anyway, right? There's no
Hmm.
nutritional value, but if I'm buying something just for my kids, then I want it to be the best quality that it can be. So I've actually found a couple of brands of chips that are made with specifically on the labels avocado oil, olive oil, or even coconut oil.
It's like that Siete brand, right? Is that one of them?
Well,
Siete.
that's one of them, but Siete member is paleo and grain free. So like my kids don't love that. I
Okay.
mean, I buy it for me, but
My kids will eat that brand.
yeah, I mean, they will sometimes, but it's not what they want because it's not what
So
every other
what
kid
brands
has.
have you found, Stephanie?
Well, oh God, we'll link it up in the show notes because I can picture it in my head. And I should have went and got some of them and brought it to show everyone. Because there's like a yellow, I could describe it. Something Mountain is one of the brands. Yeah, I'm not remembering the brands, but you can find it at co-ops for sure if you have a co-op near you. And likely Whole Foods will carry it. But that's about it. I'm not finding a lot at like a Target or Trader Joe's. Most of their stuff still has seed oils in it. And so even if it's organic, so like, okay, is it okay if it's organic sunflower oil in the chip? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that um, you
It still
know,
has the same health, I don't want to say like health implications, right? From
yeah,
the
I
oil.
I think that if you're shopping and you can avoid the, you know, soybean oil and the palm oils and the partially hydrogenated oils and some of that stuff, I think that's the best case scenario, right? If you're
Totally.
going to buy it, try and find, like Stephanie mentioned, the cleanest product you can.
With the
And
fewest ingredients.
and at some point, you might just want to say, you know what? We cook all of our food in really good, high quality oils. And my kids want to eat some chips. And if they're going to eat some chips that have some of those oils in it, it's not the end of the world,
Right.
right? It's about giving you the information. Maybe you're passing the information along to your kids, and then they're making their decisions eventually. And slowly over time, maybe the chips will get weeded out,
Yes.
or
Yes.
maybe the chips are a treat
Right.
instead of a daily crunch or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
but I think the first step is really being informed about what is in your food.
And I think you're totally right, because that's what people don't always realize. And I also think you have to look at like how much are you eating at home versus how much are you eating out?
Yep.
If you're only eating out once a week, then maybe you just don't worry about it. But if you're a family who, for lots of reasons, eats out 3, 4, 5 times a week, then you may want to consider where are you eating? asking what kind of oils they use. There are more restaurants that are advertising that they're using only olive oil or no seed oils. And honestly, the only way these businesses will make changes is if we ask and we demand it. So there's nothing wrong with making inquiries. Don't drive yourself crazy or, walk out of somewhere because of it, but just asking, because that just shows the establishment or the restaurant or whoever that there is a demand and customers are asking these questions.
And I just want to say one more thing, which is a little bit off topic, but not off topic, but off of looking at ingredients. So as we were going through our training, the naturopath that we studied under mentioned that you could try cooking in water instead of oil. And
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds so like flavorless. I'm just not sure. But I eat eggs. I make scrambled eggs for my daughter. I make them for myself quite a bit. So I'm like, I'm going to experiment. He said you could literally cook eggs this way. So I'm like,
Okay,
I'm going to
this is so,
experiment. So
I'm
I
dying
took
to
my
hear this.
pan and I put in water and
Like
I
how much
literally,
water?
what?
Like how much water?
Just like a dollop of water, like
Oh,
this much
not a
water
lot.
in the pan
Okay.
for maybe two eggs. And I kind of, mushed it around.
Yeah.
I scrambled the eggs, I put it in the pan, and you have to like really be scrambling the whole time or it's going to burn your pan and cook it
Yeah.
at a low heat. So it takes longer. But, and then I tasted the eggs with no seasoning and I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
wasn't that good. But when I put on some pepper and some, a little bit of salt, a little bit of seasonings, it actually tasted great. And I was like, wow, I just cooked
Huh.
eggs with no oil. So
So
you can be
interesting.
thoughtful. And I remember he says he like cooks his vegetables this way too. I do
Well, I guess
like a
it's
little
like
bit of,
steaming. Isn't that
well,
what you're
but
doing with the vegetables? Is kind of steaming
yeah,
them?
but he was sautéing them in water. He wasn't steaming them. So it was a sauté,
Yeah.
but it was in water, which I just thought I just want to throw that out there
Yeah.
as you're experimenting. I think if you can season things well, you don't necessarily miss the oil.
Right. Or what I've done is maybe you use a little bit of oil at a higher heat because I like a little bit of like crisp or char, not char in a bad way, but I don't like it just to be soggy, of a soggy
Yeah.
vegetable. So if you do that, but then they still have to cook. So instead of keeping it at the high heat and then potentially needing more oil in the pan, lower the
Hmm.
heat, add some water, and then it cooks. So it's like softer on the inside, but you still have already got that little bit of like a crunch or char on the outside.
Yeah.
So I have done
Yep.
that. And then maybe you drizzle a little bit of oil after the fact. So
Right.
it's like
That's what
high
I'm saying. It's like
quality
how
olive
you
oil. It's just the
season
time.
it.
It's like, right. So
Um,
that's a good little like
yeah.
experiment.
Yeah, so let us know if you try it out. Let us know. It doesn't have to necessarily be eggs. It could be
I'm
vegetables.
gonna,
I don't know if I would cook like chicken and water, but
well, that
I
would be like
don't know. Yeah,
poaching
totally.
chicken, which I would do if I was going to use it for something else, then maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
lots to talk about here. Yes.
but we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on oils? If you try something new, let us know.
Yeah.
If there's something you disagree with that we said, we'd love to hear from you.
Right.
But in general, just trying to limit those processed oils and cooking at the temperatures that the oils are meant to be cooked at, I think is going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And try Zero Acre. Let us know what you think of it.
And the
Um,
code is living well for 15% off, which is a pretty awesome discount for this oil.
Yes. The other thing I do want to mention, because it's an amazing resource that you and I both use, we had the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, on our podcast years ago, is Thrive Market. And that is a way to stock your pantry. They have their own brand and label, which is much cheaper than a lot of, commercial name brands that you'll see. And I think if you spend $75, you always get free shipping. It's it's a B Corp. It's like they're just doing so much good in the world as well to get really healthy food out to more people. So I love their mission, but it's just a very easy way to get all these oils with like one click, really good prices, use their brand, and they have like pretty much all organic ingredients. So
And I agree with Stephanie. I love Thrive and I buy my beans there, like my organic beans, my like chicken and vegetable stocks, like all of those like
yeah,
pantry items. that are organic and they're high
Mhm.
quality and they're cheaper than any grocery store in town.
Yes,
So the membership, I think there is a membership, if I recall. It
there
pays for
is.
itself in like one shop, literally
Yes.
for the whole year. So it's
Agree.
very worth it.
Agree. Agree.
Anyway,
All
that's
right.
all.
Well, have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.